Rob used to be one of the most well-respected artists of his time on DeviantArt. For those who are just hearing about him or need a refresher, Roboto, or Rob, is a 36-year-old ex-Jehovah artist who has worked within the industry, with his well-known ones being Capcom, Atlas, and Udon. He had a lot going for him. Underline had. Failed backer project, then failed Kickstarter, later failing to refund or fish at commissions. It was all as if his failures were piling up. Whether you followed him back in his Tumblr and DeviantArt days, or just discovered his Instagram, you can't help but think, who are Rob's haters that he loves to talk about? Or the people who are jealous of him? Or rather, where did it all begin? I have compiled over 10 years of events, all put into a document, which is accessible in the description below if you want to take a look at it, in hopes of clarifying why Rob is acting the way he is now business-wise, and a bit of a dig at him too. Ironically enough, Rob has made a tweet about people doing research about him. I hope what he's left while on the internet is evidence enough. Join me, a freeloader who isn't making $150K a day, into the rabbit hole which is Rob's declining art career. This pattern of Rob overblowing himself with work and ideas that cannot be done within the time given, later to abandon it to put up another project right over it, is not a rare occurrence. As he's well known for not following through with commissions, later stating a mass refund to a lot of them, and not responding to people who have been trying to communicate for many years. One incident that faded into obscurity, which I personally wish got more traction, was an Artist Beware post made in 2016 about commission he was supposed to finish back in 2012. A whole 4 years of bad communication on Rob's part, with him constantly changing from giving a refund to saying he's gonna finish it because he's too far into the drawing. As of now, it is unknown what happened to the commission or whether or not they actually got the money or the art that was promised. Though I don't blame anyone that didn't know this, as he was both juggling the recent scandals of both Cryamore and the Indiegogo Sketchbook. Cryamore is the most popular scandals he's been in, as even himself cannot avoid it to the point where I'm convinced is driving him insane. When I first saw Cryamore, I actually didn't know that it was a game. Hell, I didn't know about the $250,000 it made in 1 month of the Kickstarter being launched. Cryamore is like that one plant by the corner of a room that someone forgets to water. Then one day you're just minding your own business and you remember you even had a plant to begin with. But since it's been so long, you just shrug at it. That can't be said to the backers of the game, however, as the last update made on the Kickstarter was made after 2 years of silence. Although the 2019 update wasn't something to really get mad about, the last one was. For context, Rob, the only person writing the post, talks about his and Alan's personal lives were everything but good, goes on about how backers of the game were constantly harassing them while on development, and due to the harassment and not wanting people's blood money, he states that he will refund all the backers of the Kickstarter. While a good half of the backers of the game were supportive since it was still used on the game so it wasn't a big deal for them, the other half was disappointed and angry, reasonably so. Rob has insulted the $15 backers and put them all into one category for being the ones who harassed his team the most, putting them on blast. While I don't condone harassment in any way, for Rob to constantly go for the little man who gave him as much as they could is a dick move. Some people who took the $15 pledge were either high schoolers or college students for the most part who wanted to be involved in the game's development during the Kickstarter release 8 years ago. A whole different time of life for people. At that point, why go for the main demographic during the time of the Kickstarter? Oh wait, cause if there wasn't a cheaper option, then there wouldn't be thousands of people interested in your game in the first place. Hell, even the backers who funded 15 or more were annoyed with that. As of now, there hasn't been anyone that got their refund back by request, but Rob says otherwise, saying that he finally got to it after a decade. Mind you, since April of this year, states that he was going to do it by the end of the month. It's May 20th as of writing this, and it's May 25th as of voicing this. And unless you have his Twitter, you wouldn't have known about how he was starting now. Better late than never, I guess. But as for the refunds, nobody, again, has gotten any confirmation or proof that he did send them out. Now that the biggest of the fish was cooked, let's talk about the smaller but still relevant Indiegogo sketchbook. The Scabrous... Oh my god, how do you pronounce this? The Scabrous Scratchwork Volume 1 was one of Rob's highly anticipated art books of 2014. The first time being considered was made back in 2013. He made a DeviantArt post about it being on Indiegogo as a pre-order. Remember this, because later in 2015, he insinuated to his indie backers that they actually paid for the investment of the book being made, not the actual book, and with that offering no refunds. After 6 months of absolute silence on his Indiegogo, he posts a new update saying how he'll personally refund anyone who requests it if they don't get their book within 2015. After going through almost all the comments during that time period, only 10 people commented saying they got their books, with only one showing proof. So now you're thinking, oh, why was this mentioned if people got what they paid for in the end? Oh my bad, let me add a bit more context. It was 10 out of 457 people. Throughout silence and different updates, and vast majority of people have not gotten their book, with some asking for refunds, feeling scammed out of their money. At this point, who can blame them? It's as if Rob only printed 10 for the pre-order. But weirdly enough, he has also been selling them at a convention at the time as well. Or maybe due to the books having no tracking, they all collectively no-clipped into the back rooms for all we know. Like, my god. Oh, did you think those were the only things I can find within those years? Well, sorta, except a certain subscription service that he oh so despises nowadays, despite his NSFW Patreon still being up to this day taking people's money monthly as we speak. The last time he's ever posted on his NSFW Twitter account was to promote Crimson, but if you went back at it, you would actually see that he used to have a Patreon for it. Now, some of you might be confused as to how Rob has an NSFW account if his main account is supposed to be that account, but the one I'm referring to is Negarobo. I don't blame the people who didn't know what this account is despite it being one of Rob's accounts that's actually unlocked. I mean, you have until the count of 5 if he now decides on unlocking or deleting it forever, but it's the one people wanted from his main account but 5-fold. Like, you actually see the JJ and Dick out. If you're asking how did I find this account, looking deep into the Twitter search, people tend to put both Negarobo and Roboto Art's usernames together. And in a tweet he made about responding to Rule 34 comments, you can see that they're referring to him by his NSFW name, not Roboto. Also, this one Rosalina drawing of her in a bikini is the same one he posted on his Instagram around the same month. Funnily enough, I found another user talking about commission they wanted from years back. Rob just offered a refund, but the user wanted the commission. Unfortunately, it seems like nothing was said or done from what I know of. He also has a Ko-fi and a Gumroad that's still up too. You can buy one of his art packs to this day. Maybe he forgot about them, maybe he didn't, but they're still up and he hasn't mentioned any of them in years. Antsstyle's tweet about commission he ordered from Rob was the tweet that got me to open my eyes a little to see how Rob was as a person. At the very beginning, it seemed like there was barely anything to it because Rob only mentioned the commission once in their conversation, with Ant saying something as simple as you say, which made Rob go off on him. He talks about how he's making more money than he was and his quality as an artist has improved because Ant said 3 words and didn't even get to finish himself. This breaks into an argument with Rob, ending it with him telling Ant that he's giving him a refund. Then Rob found out that their convo got out and he tried to threaten Ant via email by suing him of defamation, which went nowhere, by the way. Yet Rob loves to remind you that he can hire lawyers anytime he wants. Shiver me timbers. Then he goes on to vague post on his Instagram about the situation, but not enough for his Insta followers to know, because during this time his Twitter account was locked. And it's still locked! Don't get me started on how Rob's Insta and Twitter are on two different planes of existence, let me tell you. Since I've been following them, he kinda acts the same on both, but the real difference between the two is that on his Instagram, he has archived a lot of his old posts, deletes comments that don't agree with him for the slightest thing, and if your comment happened to stay up despite it being negative, it was made to make as an example out of you. His Instagram is so heavily regulated by him. He posts stories almost every day showing how much of a lavish life he's been living, smoking weed, followed by a paragraph of him even talking about the grind, or how he has haters, or his past. It's kind of a formula he's built over the years, so it isn't really that new. If you go to his posts, especially his Morrigan drawing, the most recent one, which, in my opinion, is one of the worst drawings he's made of her. I can go on with what's wrong with it, but I'll jot it down here in the video. Most people who are insinuating about the hate comments being there, but if you keep trying to find them, most of them are gone. It's all positive comments talking about the grind, even when he calls his followers freeloaders, and they just fucking take it, like, jeez. But his Twitter? My god, his Twitter is hilarious and tragic all at once, let me tell you that. Probably all the most important things he tweets for all of his old backers, Crimson users, Insta users. Hell, he posted so much on there that's locked anyway, to the point where, while there are still people wanting his art, it's almost pointless right after, because it's become a cesspool of him fighting tooth and nail at his followers. His Twitter really shows the worst in him, and he rebrands it as baiting and trolling, as if he won something. And then people try to troll him back. He tries to project and mock to come off as he's the alpha of the bunch. His blocks mean absolute shit, as he's been at a heavy decline on followers on Twitter. He feeds off the negativity and predictability of himself, where I think he's mastered in making the biggest echo chamber known to man. If he yells out in the echoing fields and the sound waves are not the same as him, he'll find your tweet specifically and make an example of you. Even when there's tweets where no matter how he responded, he wouldn't win, he still went to do it anyway. It's like he's fighting for his life, trying to flex the supposed power he has over all of us who follow him. He always has to be right, or the information is bullshit. And when he says that he knows he's flawed, he doesn't specify what makes him that way, or what he wants to improve himself on. It's always money moves, not how to know when to pick his battles. He always picks the one that makes him look the worst too. And it just gets sad to watch, because I have a little theory that it has to do with the lack of control he has of his own personal life. So he has to be as flashy and loud as possible. He wants you to want him or want to be him. And that one thing that makes me even more mad about this is that even when he's shitty to his own followers during a discussion turned argument, his followers are the ones that are apologizing, sometimes for literally nothing. Then all of a sudden he's all buddy-buddy with you again. You see how controlling that is? That's not a healthy relationship you should have with your followers at all. A diverse set of feedback, discussion, support, and just interacting is crucial to being more engaged with your followers. He reminds you a lot how he's in power, he's in control. If you say otherwise or even try to question his authority, you're out. I was one of those followers who were out of the loop for the longest time, and now that the pieces are slowly coming together for me, I know I'm gonna get blocked or made an example of. Rob, You can't even make fun of yourself anymore for the stupid shit, because I know someone's gonna play along, and it wasn't the same song and dance you did. Blocked. Hey y'all, me from the future here. I was in the middle of trying to sleep a while back, and Ant made a tweet mentioning Rob's friends and what they were doing about this, saying that they're enabling Rob, which I do agree with. It really does come off as them enabling him. And Ant, I don't know if you're watching this, but this was wild. This whole thing was wild, like it fucking escalated. The one thing I wish you didn't do though was argue with the people who aren't gonna change their minds about how they feel about the situation, as nothing will be made of it. Just accept what they think and move on to the people who are with you. Because if you keep arguing with people who say otherwise, that's just gonna prove Rob right of the points he's made of people, and it shows his followers that too. Like, I really appreciate you for the post you made back in 2021 about a commission that he didn't deliver to you, but still, this is not the way to go about it. With that out of the way, Rob recently put on his story a transaction in regards to the Cryamore project, which is a refund, which I'm assuming is the legendary Crylist pledge on his Patreon. While I'm actually relieved that Rob finally showed that he was putting out refunds after who knows how many years, I'm still skeptical. This is only one out of who knows how many who's requested a refund. That, and I have a hunch that he's gonna use this screenshot as the only example he's shown refunding someone, like how he did during the Indiegogo where he only shown one book. Although I want this video to be the last time I ever talk about Rob again, I hope someone or something is keeping track of this. Anyways, back to the vid. If I had not seen Ant's tweets back in 2021, I would have still kept quiet on Rob's Twitter, thinking that Rob's violent and irredeemable rants were something that should be normal. You know, cause his hard life and people always hating him. But after that tweet, I started looking at Rob sideways. And now that I'm up to date with every single thing, it's gone to where my neck is broken. While I did see a small handful of tweets warning about Rob in the past, I never thought much of it, since it was a long time ago. But some of these quarrels that he complains about went on in such a way where it's no wonder that it's gonna be talked about now, because Rob keeps making the situation worse for himself. In the late 2000s, despite his difficult upbringing, he had an actual head on his shoulders. He showed humility, remorse, regret, and was able to listen to differing views. But despite all that, his lack of communication, lack of work ethic, and lack of customer service, and just lack of respect and kindness for people who are genuinely trying to decipher his egregious spiels. And Rob, if you're watching this, yes, I said egregious on purpose. And as he became more known, the unfulfilled commission started to accumulate. The amount of refunds he kept promising during the years to no end, with only response Rob has is, "I haven't done a commission in years, so how could I have scammed you?" At this point of all of this, the videos and the one document I've made, I didn't want to make this for Rob anymore, for the most part. I instead want to share this to people who financially and socially support him. If you've made it this far and are consistently supporting Rob, I want to first thank you for listening to this all the way through, because even if you disagree with me, I hope that the next time Rob makes some sort of project that sounds too good to be true, you have this video at the back of your mind and at least go back to it as a reference, to be wary and to be careful when buying his services and products. You are the reason that he has the power to do what he does. The power being money. If he didn't have that anymore, or if you only paid the cheapest thing he was selling, there's a chance that he's gonna go at your throat later down the line when people ask about orders and refunds, calling you a broke ass for getting something within your budget. As for me, after 5 years of following his career online, I think it's safe to say that I no longer support Rob anymore. I think that his inspirational paragraphs that actually made me feel a drive to do something, and his art with great rendering has become sour to me. Rob does not understand that despite having an old tough life, projecting, shifting the blame, it's just gonna make your backstory look like an excuse. Rob, you are responsible for your own actions, not your ex-wife, not your friends, not Jehovah, and not fucking Udon. You. There are people who have responded to you that get caught in the crossfire of your live tweets, having no idea what's going on, and you want them to be the ones to go Sherlock and figure it out for themselves, which repeated trauma topic you're gonna bring up that day. And even when they want to see you feel better, you spit at their face saying how they'll never know you. I'm not even gonna ask you to go to therapy. I'm just gonna say that you really ain't shit.